never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. It comes from tireless efforts and the persistent work of dedicated individuals, and without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the primitive forces of social stagnation. And so we must have time, and we must realize that the time is always right to do right.
In 1963, we could not register to vote simply because of the color of our skin. We had to pay a poll tax, pass a so-called literacy test, count the number of bubbles in a bar of soap, or the number of jelly beans in a jar.
Now the time has come for this nation to fulfill its promise.
If by supporting the rights of mankind, I shall save from the agonies of death one unfortunate victim of tyranny or of ignorance equally fatal, his blessings will be sufficient consolation to me for the contempt of all mankind.
Talk about a democracy, but you can't have a democracy when the few is deciding the future of the many. People's movements have made the difference in all of our lives. If it wasn't for the civil rights movement, we wouldn't be here today, right? It was a people's movement.
Time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance.
Selma gave us the Voting Rights Act, the way Birmingham gave us the Civil Rights Act, and the March on Washington gave us the Civil Rights Act. Hadn't been for Selma, hadn't been for the March on Washington, we wouldn't be where we are today. And there would be no Barack Obama as president of the United States.
Gonna make good trouble, talking about good trouble.
Good evening, and welcome to Voices of Change, Speaking Out Against Racism. My name is Greta McLean, and I am the founder of Silent No Longer Tennessee. And we're a small grassroots organization that's founded by sexual assault survivors for sexual assault survivors. Now, some of you may be wondering why a sexual violence organization decided to host an anti-racism event. Well, to start with, as Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Secondly, only about 23% of sexual assaults are reported to law enforcement, and that number falls dramatically to 6.6% among Black women, according to the National Center of Violence Against Women in the Black community. Not surprisingly, fear of law enforcement and the mistrust of judicial systems are commonly listed as the reasons for non-reporting. Structural racism within the healthcare system is also listed as a common reason why Black women do not seek medical care after being sexually assaulted. So, standing against racism and fighting for racial justice, it made sense to us from an organizational standpoint. But even more importantly, It made sense from a humanity standpoint. As human beings, it should outrage all of us that our Black brothers and sisters are being killed simply because of the color of their skin. On a personal note, I have to admit that I have been part of the problem. In the past, when I had the chance to speak out against racism, I sometimes made a conscious choice not to. I didn't speak out because I didn't want to upset family members or friends or take a chance of upsetting my boss and maybe losing my job. But what I didn't realize at the time was that my silence was giving permission for others to be racist, and that is not okay. Thankfully, I've learned a lot, and I realize that there's a big difference between not being a racist and being anti-racist. I've learned that being an anti-racist is a very active exercise, and when I'm confronted with racism now, my politeness filter comes off and I speak out. And my hope for this evening is that anyone watching tonight who currently doesn't speak out is inspired by what they hear tonight, and that they will find the courage to speak out against racism and hate in all its forms. But we wanted to do more than just host an event. We want to be a very active part of the solution. So anyone who would like to help, you can donate if you would like. Tonight's donations will be split between organizations here in Nashville that are on the front lines fighting for racial justice and Silent No Longer. And we will use our portion to partner with racial justice organizations, members of the community, and other sexual assault advocates to develop resources and training that address the systemic institutional biases that are barriers not only to care but to justice for survivors of sexual violence. If you'd like to donate, you can through our Venmo account using the email silentnolongertn@gmail.com. Now, I know that all of you did not come here tonight to listen to me, so let's go ahead and get on with the show. It is my great honor to introduce the first performer of the evening, who is also our MC. Creativity, passion, and drive are synonymous with Strong Jewel. She is an artist, musician, entrepreneur, activist, and radio host of Iron Throne Radio. When she isn't in the studio recording, she is marketing her brands and hosting her radio show, as well as writing songs and poetry. And in the short time I've known her, I've come to realize that she is a force of nature. She is strong, determined, committed, and loyal. It is my great pleasure to introduce Strong Jewel, who will be performing her poem, Resistance. Ooh, I'm actually not there, okay. You'll need to unmute yourself.
Now I say, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Greta. Now I say, fly like birds, sting like bees, but behold the real words of Muhammad Ali. They want to come test but can't test us, see? Because divine intervention, that's who we be. And our resistance is power in an instant. We hold the key, yeah, we go the distance. And we strong like King Kong, yeah, persistent. So they want to destroy our existence. You see, history's inconsistent, so we stay resistant. They want us to be non-existent. Third eye open, so we stay distant. Pressure bust pipes, but our pressure's consistent. Now they want to stop our growth. They want to stop the show. For strength in numbers, yet we hustle the flow. And no justice, no peace, you know how it go. I said no justice, no peace, you know how it go. So fight the power, no time to cower. Yeah, you know we came to devour. Fight the power, no time to cower. Yeah, you know we came to devour. And now I would like to introduce our first performer, Zaya Brown. We assure you will be as amazed by our next performer as we are. Zaya Brown, better known for her stage name, Fly Zaya, began rapping at the age of 2. At the age of 6, she released her first cover song, Ride My Bike, which led to becoming the youngest winner of KYS Versus and an invitation to perform at the 2016 WKYS Block Party. Now, at 8 years old, Fly Zaya is an accomplished MC and is known for her 90s era hip hop flow and memorable freestyle content. Her talents have garnered her the attention of third-time Grammy award-winning rapper Rhapsody, and tonight she will be performing her poem, I Believe, followed by a freestyle performance of Generation Speaks.
Thank you. I will be doing Generation Speaks, and it's a song about the world, what's going on in the world. Now I'll be doing it a cappella. Look, yeah, yo, if you could see what I see, people screaming he can't breathe, got his knee on his neck while they watching him plead. Should have did the right thing and just let him leave. Now we marching in the streets, just as no peace. Say his name, Elijah McClain, Doves release. Black lives that mad again, snatched by police. I'm sick and tired. The president talking and lying, he should be fired. Obama come back, I'm crying. You're rehired, we need you while people are dying. Had to inquire, they say there's no hurrying and trying. Say his name, Rayshard Brooks' life was took. Busted could see his face in the sky while she looked. Say his name. George Floyd is different, but yet the same. Gigi, you should be proud. Your dad didn't change the game. Say her name. Streets are congested. I'm suggesting Breonna Taylor's killers be arrested with no question. Now, I'm going to be doing I Wish, a poem. I wish for a brighter day, wishing the sun could shine forever. I wish that the darkness could stay away. I wish the whole world could kneel and pray. These are my wishes for today. I wish they can open some jail gates. Wish that we can formulate from one plate. This wish is great. Wish for love only and stop the hate. Wishing I can challenge your foul thoughts. Wishing some didn't eat the pork. I wish the blind could see and the cripple walk. I wish the animals could talk. Wish for and saw somehow get caught. Wish that fire for freedom could get fought. Wish the ignorance could get taught. Wish the slaves wasn't brought. Wishing my government to a boat was just secure for AIDS, but COVID-19. I wish for days, wishing I was invincible because of gun strays.
Thank you, Fly Zaya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
All
having
right.
me.
And our next performer is Jennifer Snowden. Our next guest, she comes from Los Angeles, California. Jennifer Lee Snowden is a singer, songwriter, piano player, essayist, and public speaker. A two-time cancer survivor, she is resilient as she is forceful. Owned with the help of producers Ali Stone and Eric Dam, her music brims with evidence of all she's ever overcome. Jennifer's primary goal is to uplift others and to help awaken them, women especially, to their unique inner power. She is available for concert, speaking, and editorial opportunities. And tonight, she will perform a poem she wrote after the murder of George Floyd, entitled, I Can't Breathe, a poem for George Floyd.
Can't you see the beauty that lies behind his eyes? Can't you see the spark of soul that we dehumanize? Can't you see a man that had a mother and a life? How do you think our God feels watching us snuff out his light? Can't you see his blackness as the world's amazing way to boast how many colors that a rainbow can display? Would you want to go and murder the blueness in the sky? Perhaps the greenest grass should all be left to die, or maybe yellow hair no longer seems to fit within our painter's palette, so let's get rid of it. You see, we made a choice to label blackness as a sin, to use our every weapon to make this lie sink in, to let the stink of history build up and sit and rot until our nose went blind to all the crimes that we forgot. And every day that we refuse to recognize these wrongs, we choke another bird and we silence sacred songs. For if we preach that every life was sown by holy twine, how can it be that this man's voice matters less than mine? How can we be a moral country and laud our Bill of Rights if rights only mean something for those of us born white? Can't you see that freedom can never truly be if we allow one people to decide what color means? Oh, as I watched him dying, I couldn't help but see the future of our nation screaming, "Help me, I can't breathe." Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Our next performer, Royce Massangill, works in both the music and acting industry around the United States. Known for his ability to bring life and creativity to projects, he has worked with Missy Elliott, Soulja Boy, iHeart Memphis, CEO Miami, Mike, K-Mars, and others. He is a Kennedy Center award-winning actor and is a 2020 Southern Entertainment Awards nominee for his podcast, Royce Rants, which focuses on social issues in the Southern urban community. He is also a respected community activist who specializes in reforming police policies and broken communities in his area. Please welcome Royce Massangill, who will be performing W.E.B. Du Bois 1906 Niagara Movement speech.
All right, thank you guys very much. I'm really inspired and very, thankful, for being able to read this as such a legendary person. And I'm sorry if I'm in and I'm out because I do have a show here at 7:30, but I just wanted to be a part of this and at least bring some things back that still are relevant today that Du Bois had spoke on back in 1906. So I'm just going to be reading the Niagara Movement speech, and you guys just bear with me. All right. Never before in the modern age has a great and civilized folk threatened to adopt so cowardly a creed in the treatment of its fellow citizens born and bred on its soil. Stripped of verbiage and subterfuge, and in its naked nastiness, the new American creed says, fear to let Black men even try to rise, lest they become the equals of the white. And this is the land that professes to follow Jesus Christ. The blasphemy of such a course is only matched by its cowardice. In detail, our demands are clear and unequivocal. First, we would vote. With the right to vote goes everything: freedom, manhood, the honor of your wives, the chastity of your daughters, the right to work, and the chance to rise and let no man listen to those who deny this. We want full manhood suffrage, and we want it now, henceforth, and forever. Second, we want discrimination and public accommodation to cease. Separation in railway and streetcars based simply on race and color is un-American, undemocratic, and silly. We protest against all such discrimination. Third, we claim the right of free men to walk, talk, and be with them that wish to be with us. No man has a right to choose another man's friends, and to attempt to do so is an impudent interference with the most fundamental human privilege. Fourth, we want the laws enforced against rich as well as poor, against capitalists as well as the laborer, against white as well as Black. We are not more lawless than the white race. We are more often arrested, convicted, and mobbed. We want justice even for criminals and outlaws. We want the Constitution of the country enforced. We want Congress to take charge of congressional elections. We want the 14th Amendment carried out to the letter in every state disfranchised in Congress, which attempts to disfranchise its rightful voters. We want the 15th Amendment enforced and no state allowed to base its franchise simply on color. Fifth, we want our children educated. The school system in the country districts of the South is a disgrace, and in a few towns and cities are Negro schools what they ought to be. We want the national government to step in and wipe out illiteracy in the South. Either the United States will destroy ignorance or ignorance will destroy the United States. And when we call for education, we mean real education. We believe in work. We ourselves are workers, but work is not necessarily education. Education is the development of power and ideal. We want our children trained as intelligent human beings should be and we will fight for all time against any proposal to educate Black boys and girls simply as servants and underlings, or simply for the use of other people. They have a right to know, to think, to inspire. These are some of the chief things we want. How shall we get them? By voting where we may vote, by persistent, unceasing agitation, by hammering at the truth, by sacrifice and work. We do not believe in violence, neither in the despised violence of the raid, nor the lauded violence of the soldier, nor the barbarous violence of the mob. But we do believe in that incarnate spirit of justice, that hatred of a lie, that willingness to sacrifice money, reputation, and life itself on the altar of right. And here on the scene of John Brown's martyrdom, we reconsecrate ourselves, our honor, our property to the final emancipation of the race which John Brown died to make free. Our enemies, triumphant for the present, are fighting the stars in their courses. Justice and humanity must prevail. We live to tell these dark brothers of ours, scattered in counsel, wavering and weak, that no bribe of money or notoriety, no promise of wealth or fame is worth the surrender of a people's manhood, of the loss of a man's self-respect. We refuse to surrender the leadership of this race to cowards and trucklers. We are men. We will be treated as men. On this rock, we have planted our banners. We will never give up, though the trump of doom finds us still fighting. Thank you.
Thank you, Royce Masengil. Now, our next performer, Mariah Phillips, is an activist, community leader, businesswoman, and educator, and the mother of 5 children. When she isn't teaching or spending time with her family, Mariah uses her gift for words to speak out against social injustice. She supported survivors of sexual assault who protested against a state house representative who admitted to molesting his former high school basketball players. She stood with her fellow teachers, with parents, and with students concerned about gun violence in schools, organizing events for the March for Our Lives movement, and she is very active in racial justice causes. Join me now in welcoming Mariah Phillips, who will be performing Some People Say.
Thank you, everybody. I am reciting a poem that I wrote. This is a true story. And before I begin, let me ask that anyone who has any information regarding the death of Israel Monte Jackson in Roanoke, Virginia, on April 26th of this year, please reach out to the group Justice for Israel Jackson. Some people say. My friend lost her son the other day. He was young, 20, employed and free, not the kind you'd expect to find hanging from a tree. Some people say it was suicide, but Mama knows better. He didn't leave a note or a goodbye letter. All he left was a trail of dirty laundry in his room and a mountain of evidence that said he was going to work that day. Some people say she should give up. The police closed the case after a 2-day investigation. They never interviewed his job or his girlfriend or the business that owned the property where his body was found. Why not look around? Any surveillance video or suspects or history of suicidal tendency? No one knows because no one asked, at least no one with authority. Some people say she should make peace. He's gone. All she can do now is move on. Some people say, until there is justice, there can be no peace. No justice, no peace. No peace for a weary mother who is looking for help. No peace for a soul tormented by her child's personal hell on earth. Until there is justice, there can be no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. For if you know justice, you will know peace. For one cannot exist without the other. Our internal pendulum will swing until the other side is satisfied. Where is the justice for Israel? and his mother, and the many Black mothers who have had to bury their sons without answers, without anyone in power even asking the right questions. Some people say Black Lives Matter is founded in hate and bigotries, but all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter, and we no longer see men hanging from trees. What would Jesus do if he saw young Israel hanging from a tree, dead because of the sins of another? Some people say, until there is justice, there can be no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. If you know justice, you will know peace, for one cannot exist without the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariah Phillips. Now to our next performer, Derek C. Phillips. Like his wife, Mariah, Derek is a creative soul. Song lyrics were some of the first words he ever learned, and music in his home was just as common when he was a child. His passion for music developed at an early age, and he performed in local bands, youth and community orchestras, and the Concord Blues, Devil's Drum, and Bugle Corps. As a two-time Grammy-winning drummer, Derek has worked with a variety of artists, and in 2009, he released his solo project, Manufactory. The album blends his spoken word talent with jazz, hip hop, electronica, and drum and bass. And tonight, Derek will be performing Way with Words.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you're all gathered here. This is a beautiful thing. Thanks for letting me be a part of it. I wrote this poem the week that George Floyd was lynched in public. A friend told me once I have a way with words. I often get carried away with words. If only people could find a better way with words. Better pray. Pray better while bodies are carried away. Trying to keep my sons and daughters from getting carried that way. Before someone says, they're out of control, they're getting carried away. As if the only answer to getting carried away is to be carried away. Being Black in front of the wrong person will get you buried today. If only George, Ahmaud, and Sean could get away with words. They tried to use them, but they were done away with. Word. Breonna Taylor was blown away with nothing to say. You heard? How many bodies need to be carried away? It's absurd. We use words every day, but still don't know our way with words. The truth is buried away. 21 grams lighter they lay. Got me feeling a certain type of way, in a word. Got me crying as I pray, screaming while throwing weight, still pushing the weight off my chest I can't see. Trying to move the weight, remove the hate, unable to meditate. I can't stop, breathe, I can't breathe, stop, wait. I put my life in these words. I put my strife in these words. Hopefully I can save a life with these words. If only words can bring them back to life. These words. A friend once told me I have a way with words. I often get carried away with words. If only people could find a better way with words. If only people could find a better way. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek Phillips. Now to our next performer, Jason Waibara. Actually, sorry, before we do that, just a quick reminder, if you would like to donate to Silent No Longer and other organizations fighting for racial justice, you do so through Vimo by using the email silentnolongertn@gmail.com. silentnolongertn@gmail.com. Now, Jason Waibara is a Virginia-based poet whose daytime job is teaching physics and astronomy at Bridgewater College. His poems have appeared in Sensations magazine, Vox Poetica, and the anthology, We Are Residents Here. Dr. Waibara is also the editor of the American Astronomical Society's column this month in Astronomical History. You can learn more about Jason by going to his website at jasonwaibara.com. Welcome Jason now as he performs Which Knee and Have I Done Enough?
Thank you so much. Which knee angers you? Which knee keeps you up at night? The knee pressed into the ground to elevate, or the knee pressed into a neck to suffocate? Which knee angers you? Which knee will cause you to speak? The knee that promotes humanity, or the knee that commits atrocities? Which knee angers you? Which knee is a threat to you? The knee that demands accountability, or the tool used in brutality? Which knee angers you? Which knee will cause you to act? This next one is, have I done enough? As I no longer have the energy or will to make it past the midnight hour, gently kissed by an ever-vigilant cool breeze, I ask myself, have I done enough to deserve to rest? As my siblings of color continue to fight, to live, to exist, if they cannot even be safe asleep in their beds, I ask myself, have I done enough to deserve to rest? As my rainbow siblings fight to love, to exist, orphaned by hate, crushed by weight placed upon them, I ask myself, have I done enough to deserve to rest? It is easy to say that one's cup is empty with nothing left, to take a spa day, to say you care, post a meme, a black square in place of vacation pose, temporary, maybe even join a protest, unless of course it rains. As long as it is they instead of we, as long as worth is determined by ancestry, biology, faith, poverty, I ask myself, have I done enough to deserve to rest? As long as corporate entities can poison freely, write the laws and purchase safety, for as long as people are valued less than a stock market index, I ask myself, have I done enough to deserve to rest? As long as self-care is confused with the luxury to disengage, as long as fear controls the status quo doesn't change, and I ask myself, have I done enough to deserve to rest? Thank you.
Thank you, Jason Wybara. Our next performer, Kenny K.P. Walker, is a poet who loves to mix his spoken word with music. With his early influences being the Last Poets, Stevie Wonder, War, and Prince, Kenny reaches to carry on the tradition of putting meaning in the direct word. This evening, he will be sharing his poem, My America.
I'm sorry. Hi, thanks for having me on here today. And I'd like to first off just give a shout out to everyone who came before me and everybody's coming after me. This is an awesome event and I'm happy to be a part of it. This is called My America. My America is a place where I live. My America is a place where I'll die. It's the place where we all look for that pie in the sky. My America has colors more than any other rainbow. You need to stand out for your true colors to show. If you have a dream, this is where you go. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. My America took a red man's land to never give it back. It needed labor for free, so to enslave the black. Being different in any way makes you subject to attack. Yo, man, step back. My America thinks justice is on the silence. Arrogant to a fault and filled with pride. Hold on tight because we're all along for the ride as you fly by, you way by, you way by, you way by. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing, sing. My America bore great people from our race. Let me see, we had inventors, entertainers, and presidents, and those that walked in space. But it's very important that you know your place. What do you mean I got to get back in my place? My America may be different from where you grew, from who you are and what you do. Each America different, each America true, each America true. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing, sing, everybody sing. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny KP Walker. Now to our next performer. Michael Miller was born in Syracuse and spent most of his childhood in Batavia, New York. From a young age, it was obvious creativity was in Michael's blood, but music held a special place in his heart. After graduating from the Crane School of Music at SUNY Potsdam, Michael decided to share his creativity and love of music with children. For the past 26 years, he has taught and mentored children as a music teacher and band director. His creativity goes beyond music, however. Michael has written and performed his poetry for years, and his book of poems entitled An Identity Shared can be found on Amazon. Tonight, he will perform My Right to Hope and Hope on Pause.
Hello, everybody. Hearing some wonderful work so far, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more wonderful ones tonight. Thanks for inviting me, folks. I appreciate it. My right to hope, because I think that's the one thing between everything going on, whether it's the political things or the racial and ethnic things or the COVID things. The biggest thing to try to hold on in all of it is hope. My right to hope. I can hope. I will hope. I have to hope. I have that right to hope. So please stop stringing my opinions and my views, my identity, my news up on your preconceived, self-assuming rope. I hope that peace will find its way back into cities' nights. I hope that peace, cooperation, and tolerance will build a better, stronger bridge between blacks and whites. I hope that police and citizens can do better and see eye to eye so that an arrest can be a proper arrest without the apprehended having to be senselessly, brutally die, causing yet another brother, father, mother, spouse, or significant other having to pitifully cry, causing civic leaders and activists again to ask why. I hope that all racial and ethnic discrimination can someday, somehow come to an end so that kids and adults from every race and every culture can realistically call each other friend. I hope that COVID will someday, with vaccinations, be wiped away so that our children can return to in-person learning with a desire and fire that has been taken and is a break from, but has never stopped burning. No more beating, no more mistreating. I can hope, I can hold my breath that someday soon, neither prejudice nor COVID will continue to cause death. Hope and pause. Day in and day out, we moved everywhere. Every day we went where we wanted. We were transported in every way as we came and as we went. We had full control. We had the full say. Whereas then came the new dawn of a new and different, more isolated day with much of life living in a different directed way. We are more planted in one or two or just a few places to go. We are attempting to keep the hope of being safe and sound, establishing about us a more solid ground. Every day our roots are stronger in the soil of our homes where we daily plant our daily seeds, tending to the soils on our daily and weekly needs of our living foundation, where we awaken to execute our daily preparation, where we now work, where we now achieve, where we try to hold on to hope for the near future and for the longer run, with each new day, with each rising sun, that there will be the ability of a healthier, safer next generation. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael Miller. Our next performer was scheduled to perform We're on Our Way by Fannie Lou Hamer. But unfortunately, she notified us this afternoon that she had to cancel due to a family emergency. So Greta has agreed to perform the piece in her place.
Righteousness exalts all nations, but sin is a reproach of any people. The Beatitudes of the Bible, the 5th chapter of Matthew says, "Blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted." We have mourned a long time, but we don't have anything to be ashamed of. All we have to do is trust God and launch out into the deep. Now we can pray until we faint, but if we don't get up and try to do something, God ain't gonna just put it in our lap. And you know, it's really plain today, some of the things that we read in the Bible. Like when the man looked out and saw the numbers and said, "These are they from every nation." Can't you see that these things are coming to pass today? Can't you see it? When all these young people are coming out and speaking out to help America be a real democracy, to make democracy and justice a reality for everyone. You can see it. You can see hope, and you can see the fulfilling of God's word. You know, he told us a city that's set on a hill can't be hid, and to let our light shine so that men would see our good works. He said, "Blessed are you when men revile you and persecute you and set almighty evil against you for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven." That's why I tell you tonight, we have a responsibility to act. And if we plan on walking in Christ's footsteps and keep his commandments, we have to be willing to launch out into the deep. Now, when I say these things, don't think that we're fighting against these people because we hate them. We're fighting against these people because we love them. We love them, and we're the only thing that can save them now, because we're fighting to save these people, to save them from the hate and all things that would be so bad against them. We want them to see the right way. And that's why every night of my life, when I lay down before I go to sleep, I pray for these people. I pray for these people that despitefully use me. But Christ said, "The meek shall inherit the earth." And I believe tonight, even if I have to die for it, that we shall overcome. And we shall overcome, that means something to me tonight. We shall overcome means as much to me tonight as Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. And if it can save a wretch like me, then yeah, we shall overcome. We shall overcome because he said, "Seek and ye shall find, knock and the door will be open, ask and it will be given." Now, it's been a long time, but now we can see a new day. A day when our sons and our daughters, when they won't be afraid to walk down the street because of so much hate. Hate that makes the police jump on a mere child. And that's why we want good people. People who are concerned about all people, because we are all human beings. And regardless of how they have abused us all these years, we have always cared about what's going on, and we have prayed. We have prayed hard, and we have hoped. We have hoped that God would help us bring about change. And now's the time. Now is the time for change, and now is the time for all of us to stand up.
Thank you, Greta. Now, our next performer, Special K, calls Richmond, Virginia home. Her passion for poetry began when she was in 9th grade, and it continues to stick by her side like a loving friend. She timidly stepped into the light of Showcase in 2014 and has been featured on stages all over Richmond. By 2018, she was performing in Washington, D.C., Maryland, along the East Coast. Despite the pandemic, she continues to share her love of poetry and spoken word with like-minded souls in New York, Georgia, California, and the United Kingdom virtually. Those who have heard her perform say she uses words to play with imaginations or influence out-of-the-box thinking. Please join me as we welcome Special K, who will be performing There Is a Price to Be Paid and America.
And I apologize, I am not seeing her in here. Special K, if you are in here, could you wave in chat? I'm not seeing her, so I apologize, everyone. If the next person's ready, then we'll go ahead with that.
All right, so we will move to the next performer. Miss Judy Thompson was raised in Nashville, Tennessee. As a child, she witnessed hooded KKK members stand proudly in Nashville streets at the state capitol, and she watched as a cross burned in her front yard. Sorry. She remembers the moment she learned Dr. Martin Luther King had been assassinated, and many other poignant moments over the past half century. But despite those trials, she has always leaned on her faith and remained a strong and determined woman. Greta describes her as a mother, a friend, confident, advocate, defender, cheerleader, and woman of God. No matter who you are and where you come from or what mistakes you have made in life, Miss Judy will take the time to listen, comfort, and encourage you. She exemplifies what it means to be Christian, and this is a living example of courage and resilience. And tonight, Miss Judy will be performing excerpts from Dr. Martin Luther King's Letter from a Birmingham Jail.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate this time to be here with you all. This is very touching and very moving to me, having spent 68 years of my life seeing the things that I've saw and where we are now. So this is very strong and moving to me because I was a young girl when Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. So here we have. We know through painful experiences that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Frankly, I have yet to engage in a direct action campaign that was well-timed in view of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of segregation. For years now, I've heard the word wait. Rings in the ears of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait was almost always meant never. We must come to see with one of our distinguished jurists that justice too long delayed is justice denied. We have waited for more than 340 years for our constitutional rights and God-given rights. The nations of Asia and Africa are moving with jet-like speed toward gaining political independence, but we still creep at horse and buggy pace toward gaining a cup of coffee at a lunch counter. Perhaps it's easy for those who've never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait. But when you've seen various mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will, drown your sisters and brothers at will, when you've seen hateful policemen curse and kick and even kill your brown brothers, your black brothers and sisters, when you see the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of a fluid society, when you suddenly find your tongue twisted and your speech stammered, as you seek to explain to your 6-year-old daughter why she can't go to a public amusement park that's just been advertised on television, and see tears welling up in her eyes when she's told that Fun Town is closed to colored children, and see ominous clouds of inferiority begin to form in her little mental sky, and see her beginning to distort her personality by developing an unconscious bitterness towards white people. You have concurrent answer for unconscious bitterness for answer for your 5-year-old son who asked me, Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean? When you take a cross-country drive, find it necessary to sleep night after night in an uncomfortable corner of your automobile because no motel will accept you. When you're humiliated day in, day out, the nagging signs reading white and colored. And your first name becomes nigger. Your middle name becomes boy, colored. However old you are, your last name becomes John. And your mother, your wife, never given the respected title of Mrs. When you are harried day and haunted by night by the fact that you are a Negro, living constantly at a tiptoe stance, never quite knowing what to expect next, are plagued with answers and outer resentments, when you are forever fighting a degenerating sense of no be gained. God bless you.
Special K is now here. She was having some difficulty with the link, but she is here now. I apologize to her and to everyone else. So if you want to go ahead and introduce her.
Okay, thank you, Judy Thompson. Okay, so now Special K is here. Special K calls Richmond, Virginia home. Her passion for poetry began when she was in 9th grade, and it continues to stick by her side like a loving friend. She timidly stepped into the light of Showcase in 2014 and has been featured on stages all over Richmond. By 2018, she was performing in Washington, D.C., Maryland, along the East Coast. Despite the pandemic, she continues to share her love of poetry and spoken word with like-minded souls in New York, Georgia, California, and the United Kingdom virtually. Those who have heard her perform say she uses words to play with imaginations or influence out-of-the-box thinking. So please join me as we welcome Special K, who will be performing There Is a Price to Be Paid and America.
Hello. Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death." Harriet Tubman said she would shoot anyone who made a sound or dared turn around. There is a price to be paid to be free. Now, I do not know who said ignorance is bliss, but I do know this. Stockholm Syndrome is a real thing. Now, that's not to say I live happily every day under my oppressor's thumb, but only that sometimes the beat of my ancestors' drum goes dim and I wonder if the rhythm is done. The sound drowned out by the incessant noise of the same old wheel. There is a price to be paid to be free. Hush now. Can the spirits of my long dead relatives feel that the revolution has begun? There is a price to be paid to be free. And I was never meant to teach Black boys how to become Black men, but I have been forced to learn because the world I live in has shaken its fist angrily and banged its gavel down, issuing the decree, an unspoken rule that they would tear apart the Black family. And they would do this by creating a pipeline to prison straight from school. This way, they would trap little Black boys before they became Black men. And then they would starve them of the nurturing that can only come from a woman's embrace. And they would condition them to only feel masculine when they were put on display or kept in a cage. And then they said, there's just a little bit more. We'll set them free every few years or so, give them just enough time to procreate before we round them up and bring them back so we can continue to feel safe. And there's more to this here recipe. We will fill their women with heaps of self-hate and bombard them with ads to bleach their skin. We won't have to lift a finger if we keep them in poverty, programming them to self-destruct from within. This is the American dream, a tapestry woven together with the fabric of the white man's construction. But this, they never counted on. This, their eyes could not fathom. Before there was them, there was Mother Africa, Eve, and Adam. And their lessons flow through my veins like rum in the pits of drunken men, and their drum call sounds with every spasm of my beating heart. I am the daughter of them, a Black woman, and I was never built for destruction. Now, I was never meant to teach Black boys how to become Black men. But you have made it your mission to kill each one of them, thus changing my life's course and making me a fierce protector of them. We've already established you're not much on the education of a Black nation, so I must raise my voice. I was never meant to teach Black boys how to be Black men. But the police have become daily assassins, always itching for a lynching and no longer satisfied with the death rate of Black men in their old systems. I was never meant to be anything more than just a Black woman, living life abundantly and free. But you have constantly labeled me angry because I held my tongue, and more so now because I refuse to let Black men die so young. And yet, there is nothing new under the sun. And so history demands that I, a Black woman, must rise. George Floyd was never meant to be forever remembered in martyrdom. But the door was opened, and with cries for "Mama" and struggling breaths, he walked in. I was never meant to teach Black boys how to become Black men. But your triumphant shouts of a South rising again have forced my hand. I should not have to legislate the color of my skin to protect Black men. And yet, here I stand. And until this is something that we can all agree upon, I promise I will stay with your son. And I will continue on this trajectory, not just until justice is won, but until we've all been healed from the hurt you caused by taking the life of Emmett Till. Only then will we be able to sing, "Let freedom ring," and will I consider my mission complete. I was never meant to teach Black boys how to survive long enough to become Black men. Don't you agree? And there is a price to be paid to be free. America, God shed his grace on me and crown my good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. But America, I feel thou hast forgotten about me. From slavery to the separation, no, I mean the destruction of the Black family, to the created and portrayed imagery that only people who look like me live in poverty. America, where is this brotherly love one of your original cities boasts of? Or is that something only white men in white robes get to dwell in? America, God meant thine every flaw. Confirm thy soul in self-control, my liberty in law. But America, I feel like I am the only one flawed, and you have taken it upon yourself to mend them, laying waste to my brethren, their lifeless eyes staring upward toward heaven, and the streets soaked in their blood while the pavement still echoes the reverberation. Stop! Don't move! Hands in the air! Bang, bang, bang! Oops. America, the police have become a vigilante. They have decreed themselves to not only be the lawmen of this country, but also the deciding factor in who gets liberty or death unto thee. America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness and every gain divine. But America, your riches have been obtained in all ways unmoral, unjust, and unethical. You stole from Africa and every other country along the way until there's practically nothing left. And you have forced those who suffered at the hands of your plundering to bow and call you king. Where is the nobleness in that? And from that day until this one, divine has not been the name of every gain for a people who look like me. Each step forward has been riddled in strife, struggle, oppression, and death. America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shine and sea. But America, you have forgotten the grace bestowed upon your broad shoulders. Your memory seems to fade when it comes time to admit that without the backs of slaves, you would have never made it here to this great stage. America, when will you open your eyes and stop pretending to be blind to all that which is negative inside of you? America, when will you demand? No. America, when will you decree? No. America, when will you issue justice for all of us? Only then shall we truly be free. Only then can we stand on this, our home, sweet homeland. America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shine and sea. America, I want to see my son make it to 21. America, my Black son matters to me. America, when will we matter to thee? Thank you.
Thank you, Special K. Our next performer, Kai Hardin, moved from Nashville to attend the University of South Carolina as a pre-nursing student. She began performing poetry her sophomore year of high school. She fell in love with poetry because in a world that has tried to oppress her voice, poetry is how she truly expresses herself, using it as a form of activism to convey the topics that she is most passionate about. Tonight, she will be performing race poems.
They asked me to stop writing race poems. They told me I was whining and complaining. I didn't know how to reply to the face of money, Starbucks, and stereotypes that look me in the eyes. Painted the perfect shade of white when Donald Trump sends all my people running, they will be sleeping. When we climb across borders and swim across seas, go back to a land that we've never seen, they will be eating. When my ancestors had to be beaten for me to have a voice, best believe I am speaking. Brown, black to the core, the sun bakes us and our melanin seeps through, darkens to a beautiful gold. Our ebony painted skin makes you uncomfortable. Even though we don't roll up in white masks and white suits ready to murder you. Our ancestors too familiar with looking down the barrel of their captors, and our eyes look down the barrel of their captors' grandchildren. I have seen too many pictures of my ancestors hanging from trees. First, you capture us from our homeland, then you enslave us. Then you rape us, treat our bodies as factories, beat and kill our men and women, you over-police us. When your ancestors never paid for slavery, it was taken from them. We don't want to pose a threat. We were just taught to roar when the blood of innocent Black people flood the streets at the hands of your police. Arrest the police who killed Breonna Taylor. They have been murdering us in broad daylight. When I see men in blue, I picture body bags. When they come around, they leave with a lifeless chocolate body coated in unfinished dreams and aspirations. You want to deprive us. We were given nothing, but they have taken everything. You all tried to step on us, but we rise. No 40 acres and a mule, yet we still thrive. These brown wombs birth inventors, activists, scholars, and entrepreneurs. Shackled in the ghettos, they viewed us as their entertainment. Pour drugs and poverty into our communities, we have no generational wealth. Our ancestors slaved for your comfort. I have been taught to speak my truth. People can say that we've moved on as a nation, but when I look in the news, I see the abuse of brown people. George Floyd being murdered in the street. Now they can't stop us from speaking, rising, starting a movement. They say that we moved on. Black Lives Matter, when they see Black Lives Matter, it upsets them. They hate to see us rise like we always do, but we are tired of being breathless, having our names crossed off your checklist. You all slip into those uniforms with blood on your hands like a beast returning to the jungle, ready to murder again. They asked me to stop writing race poems. They asked my heart to stop beating. The same way Rosa Parks sat down for us and Martin Luther King wrote down his dream for us, I will speak for us. I won't stop writing race poems until all the ink runs out of my pens, until every piece of paper is set on fire. I won't stop writing race poems until all the Black in me feels equal, until this nation has made me comfortable in my skin. I won't stop writing race poems until Harriet Tubman's face is placed on the $20 bill. And I will continue writing race poems because we've come so far and still have a long way to go. But they asked me to stop writing race poems when my only history is my family fighting to be free. I won't stop writing race poems until I can no longer breathe. Thank you.
Thank you, Kai Hardin. Don't forget, if you would like to donate, if you'd like to make a donation or donate, you can do so through Vimo by using the email silentnolongertn@gmail.com. So it's silentnolongertn@gmail.com. Now, we are happy to have Kenny KP Walker once again as he performs I Can't Sleep.
Hello, once again, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all are enjoying this because I'm enjoying this a lot. This is awesome. Okay, I can't sleep. I'm sorry, bear with me. I can't sleep. I toss and turn in the dark with my eyes wide open. I can see through the darkness. I look for the light, but I can't find it. I can't find the reasons that I'm not perceived as equal. I can't find the humanity and white supremacy. I can't find the love and prejudice. I can't find the one answer why it's so dark in the heart that would cause someone to hate me for my melanin, my beautiful melanin, my unique melanin, my proud melanin. I can't sleep, and anxiety fills my mind. It's the worry that I have for my son, for my father, for my brothers, for my cousins, for my uncles, for my friends, for my people. The noise of the sirens running through the night do not keep me awake. It's the boom I hear in the streets. It's who the ambulance has in the back. It's where that fire truck is putting out their fires, what call the police car is going to that might take another Black life. The anxiety of knowing the conversation I had to have with my son about how his life is different because he is a Black man. The anxiety of telling my son how he has to conduct himself in public because he is a Black man. The anxiety of knowing that we both are considered weapons with nothing in our hands because we are Black men. I can't sleep and I can't understand. I understand why I have to be treated, why I can't be treated like a man, like a human being. Why can't I be innocent? Why can't I be loved? Why can't I relax? Why can't I enjoy life? Why can't I call this land my ancestors helped build home? Why can't I live? Why can't I just live? I can't sleep and I can't understand because I can't breathe and I'm suffocated by the weight of my shoulders. So heavy that I can't lift this burden that would make me free, truly free to live, free to jog down through that neighborhood, free to shop at any store, free to go to any park, free to go to any school, free to drive down any street, free to be a Black man in America. I can't sleep. And I can't understand why I can't breathe, why I'm so tired of racism, so tired of discrimination, so tired of stereotypes, so tired of false accusations because, hey, I'm Black, so I had to have done it. So tired of being told things are way better than they were before while I watch my brothers and sisters die in the street. Literally, the street. So tired of white privilege, so tired of denial of that privilege, so tired of America's lie that this is the land of the free. I can't sleep and I can't breathe. And if I can't breathe, then how can you? I can't sleep. So I stay woke. Peace.
Thank you, Kenny KP Walker. Our next performer, Thomas Losticero, is an award-winning poet, short story writer, and essayist from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. His poems have appeared on all 7 continents in such literary magazines as the Satirist, the Pangolian Review, Ronak Review, Boston Literary Magazine, Binweed Magazine, Antarctica Journal, Poetry Pacific, the Gazelle Page, Birmingham Arts Journal, Boomer Lit, Hobart, and Vox Poetica, among others. We are happy to welcome Thomas Losticero, who will be performing Black and White.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate the honor. If it's okay, I'll keep it under my 5 minutes. I did write another poem that I'll read before Black and White. It just came to my heart before this whole thing started. It's a poem that's called a triptych, which is a 3-part artistic form, but they're all related. And it was inspired by an article I read saying that the things that we've learned, like racism, like hatred, that they can be unlearned, and your brain actually can do an unwiring and a rewiring of sorts. So I was inspired to write this poem, and it's called Turning Toward the Truth. If someone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he is a liar. That's 1 John 4:20. So part 1, imagine moving past our one former belief, the thing that has defined you to your mute friends, the thing that is the reason your loved ones pray behind your back when they hit their knees at night. Imagine the changes your brain undertakes, long soldered connections seemingly bonded like lovers at last abandoned to clear the way for more humane and godly pathways. A lightning turning sand into glass moment, something that was suddenly no longer is. think virginity or think conception. 2, the man who coined the term the Big Bang Theory and enjoyed his life upon a pedestal, choosing his chair and the perks that came with it, discovered that the more he learned, the less he leaned on his soon-to-be former neural connections, and once his new pathways formed, would tell his fellow atheists that if they did not believe in intelligent design, then they lacked common sense. Insert mic drop. 3, it is not the miracle of second birth when your spirit is surrendered to God's. Even then, your damned free will can trip you up. You will need old man strength to fight the old you. It is the turning away from repentance, a teaching that you intrepidly look at from the perspective of truth, not the prejudice of one teaching hate out of misguided love. Belief goes from faith to indoctrination, but only the truth leads to conviction unless there is tampering of evidence. And when your brain is finally rewired, you will see skin as mere pigmentation, all people made in the image of God, and Jesus in his humanity as brown. And this next poem is Black and White, dedicated for the too many to name. I never thought I'd hear those words again. I can't breathe. How terrible the resound. A knee on a neck, the obvious outcome. Hearing those words and the repercussions, the reverberation, the witnesses, the division to come, the peaceful protest during a pandemic of all things, the signs, the chants, then the chants of violence, and then the violence, the fires, the window breaking, the looting, the riot again? No, still, same riot, different day. Even death would loose its grip, but not hatred. It's strange to say that hatred holds on for dear life. Stranger still is that we speak of black and white in terms of color, yet neither one is. Were they, the white cop would be the darker of the two, not in terms of black and white, but rather in the biblical terms of darkness and light. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas Losicero. Next, unfortunately, Bobby Harrell is unable to make it tonight. So what's going to happen now, Greta is actually going to read portions of Robert Kennedy's remarks at the Cleveland City Club for Bobby.
Thank you, and I apologize, everyone. I did not intend to perform anything other than the opening and the closing. It just kind of happened that way, so please bear with me. Whenever any American life is taken unnecessarily, whether it is done in the name of the law or in defiance of the law, by one man or by a gang, in cold blood or in passion, the whole nation is degraded. We tolerate a rising level of violence that ignores our common humanity and our claims to civilization alike. We calmly accept newspaper reports of civilian slaughter. Too often, we honor swagger and bluster in the wielders of force. Too often, we excuse those who are willing to build their own lives on the shattered dreams of other human beings. Repression breeds retaliation, and only a cleansing of our whole society can remove this sickness from our souls. And there's another kind of violence, slower but just as deadly. This is the violence of institutions, of indifference, inaction, and decay. This is the violence that affects the poor, that poisons relationships between men just because of the color of their skin. This is the breaking of a man's spirit by denying him the chance to stand as a father, to stand as a man amongst men. and this too afflicts us all. For when you teach a man to hate and to fear his brother, when you teach that he is a lesser man because of his color, you learn to confront others not as fellow citizens, but as enemies, to be met not with cooperation, but with conquest, to be subjugated and to be mastered. We learn to look at our brothers as alien men with whom we share a city, but not a community. We learn to share only a common fear, only a common desire to retreat from each other, only a common impulse to meet disagreement with force. We know what we must do, and that is to achieve true justice among all our fellow citizens. We can remember that those who live with us are our brothers, that they share with us the same short moment of life, that they seek, as we all do, nothing but the chance to live out their lives with purpose and with happiness. Surely, this bond of common fate, surely this bond of common goals can begin to teach us something. Surely we can learn, at least learn, to look around at those of us, of our fellow man, and surely we can begin to work a little harder to bind up the wounds among us and to become, in our hearts, brothers and countrymen again.
Thank you, Greta. Now, our next performer, Sean Witzel, is an activist, writer, thespian, and the founder and artistic director for Destiny Theatre Experience. The mission of DTE is to be a vehicle for telling inspiring, riveting, and thought-provoking stories that inspire the audience as well as the performers. Recently, Sean has played a pivotal role in the effort to have a Nathan Bedford Forrest statue removed from the Tennessee State Capitol. And we are thrilled that he took the time to be with us this evening. And tonight, he will be performing Pandemic.
Hello, everyone. So it's been great to see and hear all the powerful pieces. I'm Sean Witzel. But instead of doing the poem Pandemic, we've had a last minute change. I'm actually going to share with you all a monologue from a script that I'd written. And this, the script is called The D. And the monologue in this particular, the monologue is called Dante's Sad Song. And I've invited a young actor who I've had the pleasure of directing. He's been a part of a lot of my pieces in the past. So this is a piece I wrote and he's going to perform it. So I'm going to welcome to you all Milton Jackson.
A racist cop killed my brother right before my 15-year-old eyes on this very street 4 years ago. We were walking home, minding our own business, trying to get our story straight about why we were late, because we knew Mama was going to be on us as soon as we stepped foot in the house. See, Daddy had a let those boys be boys kind of attitude about almost everything we did, but Mama didn't play. She wouldn't blow up our phones. She wouldn't text us. She would call us each once. And if we didn't answer, she wouldn't leave a voicemail. She wouldn't come looking for us or anything like that. But we knew that she would be sitting in the living room fuming as she waited for us to come home. See, our only crime that night was being young, Black, and out past curfew. I mean, while we were worried about getting in trouble at home, it never occurred to us that one of us wouldn't even make it home. We didn't rob that liquor store, and that cop knew it. We didn't even fit the description other than the fact that we were Black. Even the cop's partner told him to let us go, but he refused. Guess he didn't like my brother's attitude. And yeah, Dewan had a smart mouth, a real smart mouth, but that cop had no right to put hands on him. You're supposed to be this well-trained public servant who can handle dangerous, high-stakes situations. But a 16-year-old with a little too much to say about you harassing him gets under your skin? He beat my brother up so badly that when he broke free, instinctively he started to run away. But then Dewan stopped and turned, and the cop pumped 3 in his chest before he even knew what hit him. It all happened so fast, and it's so surreal that the moment is blurry, even for me, and I saw the whole thing. I keep playing it over and over in my mind, trying to figure out how it can escalate so quickly and easily that my brother's life could be taken. Was there something he did? No. The cop later stated that Dewan reached for his gun, which was what warranted him beating my brother. That wasn't true. My brother never even reached for that gun. And at the time my brother was shot, he had run away because he didn't intend to run away from the scene. He never would have left me. He was just trying to get away from the cops beating. I mean, was it something I did? No. I was frozen the whole time, and I was so nervous I couldn't even speak when the cop was asking me questions. I was stuttering the whole time, and he even mocked me. And there in my brain, I searched for something, anything that could have warranted what happened to my brother. And there was nothing. There was nothing. There was nothing we did, and there was nothing that we could have done. The cop wanted to pin a crime on us, and he did. And because my brother spoke up and expressed his frustrations, that cop decided that he would be judge, jury, and executioner. When those shots rang out, it was deafening. And it sounded like a bomb to me. And honestly, I could have never seen it coming. And I heard a shout come out of me that I didn't even know my voice had the ability to produce. My heartbeat sped up as my brothers were slowing down. My eyes wide open, staring down at him. His eyes wide open, staring up at me. My hands shaking uncontrollably. His right hand twitching. Blood leaking out of the holes in his chest as he panted and struggled to hold on to his life. It was like I could see his body fighting to hold on to his soul, but it was too weak. And I was handcuffed and thrown in the back of a police car. And I just sat there, stunned, shaken, as my brother's lifeless body lay on that ground for what seemed like a lifetime. Just laying there, filled with bullets. Bullets that stole every breath he had, stole his innocence, his youth, his future, stole his chance to get his license or go to prom, or lose his virginity, or graduate with a 4.0, or score 4 touchdowns in a single game, or go to Morehouse, or have a family, to be a grandfather. My brother didn't get to do any of those things. Because someone who should have been protecting them, somebody who should have been saying, you boys be careful and make it home safely, saw no value in his life. So he took it. because he could, because he felt like it that day. And all I could think about was the fact that my dad was in the bed snoring after he went to sleep, thinking my mom was overreacting about the curfew. And how I knew that my mama was in the living room, sitting in that recliner, mad as hell at us right there in that moment with no clue. And I was sitting in the back of that cop car, traumatized. And my brother lay on that concrete dead. And who even gives a damn that this 16-year-old has a mother and father waiting on him to walk through their front door in one piece? Who cares how lost I was going to be without my big brother? Who cares that my mama would set his place at the dinner table for a year after he passed away? Who cares that I would have nightmares about my brother's murder over and over and over again? And that I would end up in therapy. Who cares that my family would question every ounce of faith that they had because they couldn't fathom how something like this could happen? And there was no public outcry because no one knew about it. While all these cases of police brutality popped up in all over our social media screens and all our television screens, my brother's murder went unknown. There was no dash cam or cell phone footage. There were no known witnesses. It was just my word against those cops in court. So I sat there watching the cops' partner, Officer Winchester's testimony. He was clearly nervous, and I could tell his conscience was eating him alive. He seemed like a good guy who just chose to side with evil, which in my eyes made him just like him. Because instead of defending my brother, he chose to insult my brother's character in defense of his partner. He couldn't even look me in the eye, but that damn Officer Jameson did. And only a way a smug racist cop could, because he knew there would be no consequences. And there weren't. And now my family has been left to mourn and pick up the pieces as best as we can. I'm still out here fighting and trying to tell DeJuan's story, hoping it'll catch the public's attention. And I won't give up until I get some sort of justice for my brother. But please, pray for my mama. This thing is killing her. Thank you.
Thank you, Milton Jackson, and thank you, Sean Witzel. Okay, we are glad to welcome back Special K again as she performs Your Black Is Not Wrong.
Thank you. Whew. I want to tell you, keep your head up. Tomorrow's another day, brighter days are coming, and trouble don't last always. But then that wouldn't be any type of encouragement. And as I walked away, there'd be no pride or truth held within my sway. I want to tell you that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all you've had to witness, all you've had to carry, and those crosses you've been forced to bear. But I am sick of saying I'm sorry. And I am tired of hearing you utter that irritating phrase. You see, I'm sorry is reserved for when you or I have done something wrong, committed a sin for which we must atone. It is not something we say when we've simply nothing more to say. And we've done nothing wrong, short of being Black or living where some consider out back. And we've no sin to atone except for walking alone or possibly hovering around like a drone. But and hear me when I say, your Black is not wrong. Living is not wrong. Walking is not wrong. Standing, sitting, or anything else that is viewed as a civil right handed to us through legislation and inherent freedoms is not wrong. I want to encourage you. I want you to know that I love you, my king. I want you to know that I value and support you, my queen. And I want to remind you that your Black is not wrong. And if anyone would take a moment to look at you, they would see nothing but strength. For mark my words and make no mistake, you are the very definition of the word strong. And when I look at you, I see kings and queens, descendants of a rich African heritage and royalty, more than some made up Marvel or Wakandian fantasy. There is strength in your hips, and legacy rests on your shoulders. And every time there is death, trauma, or massive crime, it is an attempted robbery of the legacy your ancestors left behind. I want to encourage you. Your Black is not wrong. And remember, an inheritance that cannot be gutted is hidden in your vines. I want to encourage you. Your Black is not wrong. And stay away from those colors. Don't allow your life to be led by them. Don't allow the red and blue to dictate who they want or think you ought to be, for they are taking your breath just as rapidly as the men and women steeped in hate try to end, steal, and seal your fate. I want to encourage you. Your Black is not wrong. And don't you be afraid of those men and women in blue. It is their job to serve and protect you. Be dignified, even when holding them to a standard of accountability. Remember, there is perseverance in your muscularity. I want to encourage you. Your Black is not wrong. And it's time to put the weapons of mass destruction down, if only for a moment. Let us bask in the sun. Let him energize us. Let him encourage us. As I have tried to do, your Black is not wrong. And remember, hold your head up high. Walk tall and proudly, always knowing and remembering your Black is not wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Special K. Now, our next performer, Bliss Button Hale, has been pushing her limits of creativity and activism through numerous performance platforms such as circus, theater, and visual arts. After the 2016 election, she found that she needed a new way to share her emotional thoughts, so she channeled her writing skills to spoken word and has been pouring herself into writing and contemporary circus arts ever since. She performs activism art pieces at schools, festivals, and events such as the 2019 Tennessee Women's March. She understands that just like any revolution, her art is forever evolving, and that this is just the beginning. Tonight, Bliss will be performing her poem, Coming to Terms with My Whiteness.
First off, let me say this. As I grow up and find my place in the world, I am forever learning. I have white privilege. It doesn't mean I always have it easy, but it means that my struggles aren't a result of my skin tone. As a woman, I sometimes fear being in the streets, but as a white woman, my fears are not because of the police. 18 years on this earth, many miles on my feet, worries on my mama, but her worries don't include police brutality on me. When I was a child, I had it in my head that 911 meant security. 911 meant I didn't have to be afraid. Police meant I was safe. As an adult, I now see that the whole justice system only brings justice to old patriarchal white slave trade thieves, while we paint people of color as degenerate thugs, vandals, and druggies. So afraid to see other people thrive, they set up a whole world where the stolen and deprived fought for freedom, but only ever got the privilege to survive. What kind of world do we buy into when young Black children must try so much harder to succeed, while young Black girls must fight so much harder for the respect they so desperately deserve and need? History depicts the white monsters who used blackface in everything from theater to genocide, but what about the current white monsters who kill Black trans women? What about the officers who kill young Black boys just trying to make it in a world where everything is against them? Sir, don't use unnecessary force against them. This world is an uphill battle. If your coworker is throwing boulders, shame on you for not calling him out or restricting his shoulders. All cops are bastards. Being white doesn't make you racist, but look me in the eyes and tell me, if I asked you for a flesh-colored crayon, would you hand me peach or burnt sienna? I try to yell as loud as possible for anyone who needs a voice, whether it be women, animals, LGBTQ+, disabled, or people of color. I'm always going to try my best to show up and make change, but make no mistake, my whiteness is a resource that sickens me, but a resource I will not take for granted. Because if my whiteness can save someone's life from the whiteness that's trying to take it, I will fight until every last inch of my pale white skin is soaked in crimson blood. Because to do nothing says everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Bliss Button Hale. Now, I'm just going to do some spoken word. It's a spoken word tribute to Congressman John Lewis. Congressman John Lewis was not only the conscience of the Congress, he was the conscience of our country. The civil rights icon and American hero routinely got into what he called good trouble and got in the way of anyone who tried to stop the fight for racial equality. Congressman Lewis lost his battle with cancer last week, and his legacy will live on for generations to come. Tonight, Henry L. Jones will honor John Lewis and his legacy by performing a dramatic reading of Lewis's response to the murder of George Floyd. Henry is an award-winning African-American artist, as well as an award-winning writer and performance artist. His work focuses on our continued struggle with cultural and social issues. Please welcome Henry L. Jones.
Good evening. I'm a little overdressed, but I thought I'd honor John Lewis because not only was he a warrior, he was always well dressed. And I said, you know, I can't show up in a t-shirt or my garb. So wanted to share these words with you. This is a wonderful event, by the way, Voices for Change. This is a needed event, and I'm proud to be a part of it and to give this small token of appreciation with these words. I am deeply moved by those who have chosen to remember that bloody Sunday, March 7th, 1965. We must never, ever forget. the sacrifices of men and women who put their bodies on the line for freedom and equality. We must look at Selma like we look at Concord and Lexington. We came here to protest an unjust system denying Blacks the right to vote, and we met people who did not want us here. They called us troublemakers. They called us outside agitators. 35 years ago, brave men and women, even children, were willing to walk into hell's fire. People turned on us and called us names. But we continue to walk. We walked to the apex of this bridge, stopped, and realized we can't turn around. We can't turn back. And when we looked ahead, we saw this bridge. We saw a sea of blue. Alabama state troopers and a posse of men deputized by Sheriff Jim Clark. As we moved forward, Mayor John Cloud yelled out very loudly, "This is an unlawful march, and it will not be allowed to continue. You have 3 minutes to dispense and return to your church." Next, we heard them saying, "Troopers, advance." They stampeded us, then stampeded us with whips, nightsticks, and horses. Horses. They tear gassed us and turned our non-violent protests into blood. They no longer lose their life for the precious right to vote. No one would turn us and call us nameless. Today, we walk across this bridge because we know our direction. History has tracked us down to this moment. History reminds us that on March the 7th, 1965, we loved America so dearly, we were ready to die for her. Like the bridge at Lexington, the bridge is a hollow battleground because blood was shed for freedom and equality. You see, when Abraham Lincoln was called upon to dedicate another piece of sacred ground, he reminded us that it is already has been dedicated, and it had already been consecrated. And here in Selma, we cannot consecrate this ground, but we can definitely desecrate it. We can desecrate it when we fail. We desecrate it when we fail to register and to get out and vote. We desecrate it when we allow bigotry or prejudice to creep into our hearts. We desecrate it when we answer hate with hate. When we return violence with violence, we desecrate this place. When we forget the blood that was shed here and the tears that were shed here, we desecrated this hallowed spot. Men and women, and yes, young children, countless, faceless, nameless, but never soulless, purchased our freedom with their blood. That freedom was not a concept. It was a concrete reality. And every time any one of us failed to exercise the right to vote, you abandon us. To tears and blood, others spread. For the absence of love is not just hate, but rather indifference. And so our vow today is to care, to love, till live free, and to vote. What happened in Selma was not a sad and dark hour in our history. Therefore, we pay tribute to this non-violent soldiers, those many soldiers who fought for a better America. That's what we want. We were inspired and renewed, and we are here to restore our faith in our dream for a new America. So we march shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand, heart in heart, men, women, children, Black, brown, and white. So today, I ask you to turn your eyes forward towards the bridges we must cross in every hamlet, in every village, in every town, every city, every state. Let us move forward towards a new America. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry L. Jones. Our next performer, Robin Kimbrough Hayes, moved to Nashville from Lexington, Kentucky to attend Fisk University. After graduating from Fisk and getting her law degree from Emory University, she became an assistant attorney general in Tennessee's Attorney General Office. Her faith led her to fight for social justice issues such as poverty, criminal justice reform, and women's issues. She served as a legal counsel for the Tennessee Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence for over a decade before becoming a chaplain and special advisor in a higher education setting. She is also currently running for U.S. Senate seat. Please welcome Robin Kimbrough Hayes as she performs excerpts from Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech.
Thank you. I am happy to join you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile on his own land. And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of a republic wrote magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, Black men and white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note, insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. And those who hope that a Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. And there will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro has granted his citizen rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall all march ahead. We cannot turn back. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of the great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells, and some of you have come from the areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, and so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream rooted deeply in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. Oh, I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of God shall be revealed in flesh, and shall see it together. And it will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing, land where my fathers died, land of my pilgrims' pride. From every mountain top, let freedom ring. And if every America is to be great again, this must become true. And so let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia to the Lookout Mountain in Tennessee. Oh, yes. And when this happens, and when we all allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, Black men and white men and Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last.
Thank you, Robin Kimbrough Hayes. Okay, so personally, I would like to thank everybody who has participated. You were all absolutely phenomenal. And I want to thank Greta as well for this wonderful opportunity. And before I go, I just have a few words of a very short poem that I wrote just to finish. We can let our thoughts get lost in the tracks of silence, diffusing the flaming torch which depletes the violence. Sacramental words defending us seem our only reliance, testing our boundaries of patience, our only reliance. See, All lives do not matter until Black ones do. And, you know, I say we have to fight the power, no time to cower, because yeah, you know, we came to devour. And I say again, fight the power, no time to cower. Yeah, you know, we came to devour. And no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all our performers and everyone who's joined us in Zoom and on our live streams. And especially a big thanks to Strong Jewel for being a fantastic MC, as well as pretty much being a one-woman PR campaign for Voices of Change. Also want to thank Peace and Justice Center, Iron Throne Radio, and Poetry in the Borough for helping promote the event, and especially all our performers. And as Dr. King reminded us, that it's not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends that we will remember the most. And whether it is racism, sexual violence, or any other form of social injustice, it is important for us to take the time to speak up and make our voices heard, not only in the streets, our city halls, and our state capitals, but also at the ballot box. Change begins in our hearts, in our homes, spreads to our communities, cities, and states, but we can't have change. It can't take root if we don't have people in office who believe in the promise and the dream of America and are willing to work with us to stop systematic racism. Along with Congressman John Lewis, we also lost another civil rights icon last week. Reverend C.T. Vivian was beaten as he fought for the right to vote, and he continued the fight because he knew the importance of making our voices heard. So if you're not yet registered to vote, I ask that you please go to www.whenweallvote.com tonight so that you can honor John Lewis, C.T. Vivian, and all those who have fought to create change and see America keep its promise. I thank you again for joining us. And again, a special, special thanks to all of our performers. I greatly appreciate it. I know I very much enjoyed it, and I know everyone else did as well. Lastly, a big thank you to singer-songwriter Susan Chan for allowing us to use her newest song, America the Possible, to close out the evening as we honor Reverend Vivian and all those who are getting in good trouble while getting in the way of racism. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a good night.
It was a clear engagement between the forces of movement and the forces of the structure that would destroy movement. There was a clear engagement between those who wished the fullness of their personality to be met and those that would destroy us physically and psychologically.
So this is not a local problem, Chuck. This is a national problem. You can't keep anyone in the United States from voting without hurting the rights of all other citizens. Democracy is built on this. This is why every man has the right to vote, regardless. We're willing to be beaten for democracy, and you misuse democracy in the street. You beat people bloody in order that they will not have the privilege to vote.
We were the first group of ministers and students to ever move in the United States on a nonviolent action.
Now, was there any hesitation on your part?
In fact, the only hesitation I had to tell my wife. We was at a meeting at night where we decided to go, and I had to go tell my wife. That was the hesitation for me. But those 10 students took off that night. You know what you're there for. You know what you're doing. You know the cost on both sides. You know the cost if you don't. If somebody doesn't, right? You know that all your life you've been waiting to get rid of racism, right? And you know, until you can break it in the South, it's not going to be broken. Right? And so let's get it on.
Equipped only with courage and an overwhelming commitment to social justice, the Reverend C.T. Vivian was a stalwart activist on the march toward racial equality.
Love will win.
Tell me why I just feel who you are should be the ground. Or the color of my skin determines if that fate is mine. Jesus Christ, we're here, it would be weeping for us all. Cause if we can lift each other up, together we will fall. And you can say that's not your problem, sit out on the sidelines. You can join in the fight, but either way it's a decision. It's one you'll have to live with. In the struggle between wrong and right, who I believe together we can be unstoppable. Yes, I believe in America possible. For every name heard in the news, 10,000 more unknown. Living in the shadows of a promise they have not been shown. Behind our differences, we share a common dream. A country where we all can live in peace and harmony. We can say that's not our problem. Let's sit out on the sidelines. We can join in that fight. Either way, it's a decision. It's what we'll have to live with. In the struggle between wrong and right, oh, I believe together we can be unstoppable. Yes, I do. Oh, I believe in America possible. Some say do unto others, some say every man for himself. Me, I wanna live in a country where my worth isn't measured by race, religion, gender, or wealth. Sometimes the lines get drawn, sometimes the truth gets lost. Between victim and oppressor, we may never know the cost. Maybe we can undo the damage of the past. We can start right here, right now, to find true freedom at last. Oh, at last. We can say that's not our problem. Sit out on the sidelines. We can join in the fight. Cause I know that my decision is what I'll have to live with for the rest of my life. And I believe together we can be unstoppable. Yes, I believe in America possible. Yes, I believe in America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which she stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's for all. It's for all.
Thank you again, everyone. I appreciate you being here. Have a great night.